Kandahar Air Base, the biggest military camp in the world, in the middle of a desert, a long way from home. This is the story of the men and women who make NATO's war machine run like clockwork.
It's like any job, really.
Every day's a drama.
Initial reports were 300 casualties.
But life in the war zone has its perks.
Happy with that.
This is the fastest, most powerful helicopter in Afghanistan. The RAF's Chinook. It's the lifeline to troops in the combat zone, dropping supplies and moving soldiers 24/7. It's built to cope with Arctic and desert conditions, and its pilots need to be able to handle any terrain. The Chinook's twin rotor blades produce a massive downwash. No other aircraft creates a dust cloud that's larger or denser. This is what they call a brownout. And pilot Chris Gent's got to perfect the technique before he's allowed out on a mission.
K7 and pistol 11, please. Cheers. We tend to make a habit of taking the weapons whenever we get airborne, because we could be diverted away from the airfield for some reason. Probably not today, but it's just we do it every time, just as a habit.
Landing in a brownout takes nerves of steel, as instructor Steve Badham knows all too well.
The problem we have is that will completely obscure the picture, and we rely solely on a visual picture to land the aircraft out here. So if we lose that picture, then we have to abort the landing.
And that could mean the difference between life and death for troops waiting on the ground.
Looking forward to it. Should be quite good fun. It's just waiting for the instructor, for the rest of the crew to get themselves ready, and then we'll be good to go.
Just go straight out and what we do, I've got to have a look at the area of the park, so if we
They need to find the right patch of desert to land in.
just beyond there, there's that little triangle, which I reckon will be quite dusty, quite good.
Chris's crewman will be counting him down for the landing.
So the crewman is telling you where the dust is on the way down the approach, and then if you do it right, you brown out for the minimum amount of time.
It is difficult. It's a skill that takes a while to master.
Blinded by the dust, Chris lands with a bump, bashing the helicopter.
It's possible to damage the aircraft, but the main risk is ripping off wheels.
The final stage is quite quick. You can afford to make the angle probably slightly shallower, so you won't kind of hit the back wheels quite so hard. Okay.
It's all about approaching the ground at the right angle, and practice makes perfect.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Half wheels, top wheels. Yeah, just whip it around, we're going to do the whole. Roger.
So we're just going to keep doing it again and again, just to practice the techniques.
We end up quite steep again towards them, whereas you almost want to try and achieve a constant angle on the way down.
Finally, Chris gets the hang of it. Keeping the dust cloud behind him, he's got visibility to the last possible moment.
Yeah, the approach angle was much nicer. Yeah, that's better now.
He's cracked it.
I think we might just call it a day.
One more pilot, ready for action.
Yeah, good fun. Really enjoyed it. Definitely got a lot from it. It's good to actually practice it for real, out in rather than in the simulator, out on the proper bit of dusty ground.
All that fine dust can play havoc with a helicopter. Engineers like Paul Gormanley have to get it serviced and cleaned up. It's a thankless job, and dirty too.
We get a lot of stick in the mess from all these officer types who sit in an office all day and they just can't understand. I don't think they even know we exist. As far as I think they're concerned, little pixies come out and fix the helicopters and then the aircrew go and save the world. They leak
The
everywhere.
Chinook Pixies have got other military nicknames.
We're riggers. Electricians are called dog. I think one person's tarnished the name for them forever.
It's not the most dangerous job in Afghanistan, but working on a 20-foot helicopter has its risks.
All the blades leak oil, so everything's like an ice rink, so the chances of falling off are dreadful. The lad I replaced, he fell off and broke his leg, so he owes me a few beers because I came out 3 weeks early to replace him.
Chinooks have a punishing schedule in harsh conditions, so the checks have to be thorough.
You've got a cooling fan in here, so if anything's falling in, it could be quite fatal to the aircraft. It's dead birds. Dead birds tend to end up in there quite a lot, so anything that we've hit on flight, really. And that is about it in there.
The Chinook is an easy target for the Taliban.
Checking the blades for any damage. They do tend to get shot quite a lot because they're doing a lot of rotations. When people fire up, normally the blades take the damage, but you wouldn't want any bullet holes in them too often. But I'd say, as far as it goes, it's enjoyable sometimes. It's like any job, really. Hit or miss, I suppose.
The RAF has a fleet of just 8 Chinooks based here. But every 3 months, one of them needs to be sent back to the UK for a complete overhaul. A fully serviced Chinook's then sent out to replace it. At RAF Bryce Norton in Oxfordshire, they're expecting an important passenger. A stripped-down Chinook. And it's going to be fitted inside this C-17 Globemaster. Flying 4,000 miles to Afghanistan would seriously reduce the helicopter's engine life. So, it's hitching a ride.
We have to break it down in a small enough size to be swallowed up by the C-17. And we need to get the helicopter there as quick as we can to ensure it gets rebuilt and does its job.
Next stop, Kandahar, where it's up to the RAF engineers to fit it back together again. Coming up, a suicide bomb puts the hospital on a state of high alert.
Are you medical? No, you need to get out of here very quickly. Go. 1, 2, 3, push.
And the Chinook engineers take on their mammoth job.
Are we ready to rock and roll?
12 miles from Kandahar Air Base is Kandahar, Afghanistan's second largest city. And where a suicide bomb has gone off next to government buildings. News has just reached the camp, triggering the mass casualty alarm. So the hospital's on high alert. Medical advisor Kev Mackey has to coordinate the hospital's emergency plan.
Initial reports were 300 casualties. With the best will in the world, that's going to swamp the local medical resources. We're the most capable hospital in the area, and so we've got to be ready to take the worst casualties. Are you medical? Are you medical? No, you need to get out of here very quickly. Go. Worst case is we just get car after car after car of stuff in.
And the security team at the entry gates are going to have to be on their guard.
The way that drivers' behavior is when they have casualties within their vehicles can be a little erratic sometimes. Erratic driving behavior is one of the things we look for as a threat indicator as well. People approach the gate at a relatively high speed. They may not necessarily comply with direction, and that's a problem in terms of how we treat the vehicle.
Medics from 20 different countries stationed at Kandahar have turned up to help.
Where are your guys?
I got 4 here, along some of them have been sent away, and I got 10 Americans around the corner.
Okay.
I'm only going to pick them up if we really need them.
Okay.
There's no shortage of volunteers.
It's a big response here. We've got far too many people on the ground. When you've got too many people, it's like you just say, you, go home, thank you very much. Whereas if you've only got one person on your own, it's a very lonely experience. So I'd rather be swamped and stand them down than have too few people.
He's got to make sure the right people are in the right place.
Masses and masses of manpower.
Ah, OK, are they stretcher bearers or medics?
No, we've got jokeys, we've got medics.
OK, if you've got too many, send them over to the stretcher bearer facility and we'll get them allocated out from there.
But so far, there's no sign of casualties.
We're still in a wait out, OK?
That's really good news. That means there's no casualties coming into us at the moment. The recent intelligence is that there's probably 55 injured, 15 killed. A lot of the guys have been taken up to local medical facilities.
The airbase has been stood down.
You are slightly relieved, but actually part of you is when the adrenaline's been pumped up and you're ready to go, it's a bit of an anticlimax, really. Yeah. That's it, done. OK. Finished. OK. Thank you very much indeed. Thank you all for your swift professional response.
6 local people died and 42 were injured that day after a fuel tanker was driven into government buildings. It's midnight and the RAF engineers have just had a delivery from the UK. The workhorse of the war in Afghanistan, the Chinook, and it's in bits.
If anybody sees anything at any time, just shout stop.
It needs to be put together fast because they're 1 Chinook down. Gaz is new to the job.
My whole point of being here on Chinooks is for experience before I go on to further training, so I'm looking forward, start to learn.
His first big challenge is to get the helicopter out of the C-17 Globemaster.
A bit nervous because potentially we're lifting quite expensive, heavy equipment.
It's going to be winched out. I'm going to look forward just to make sure that Bo's clearing the ramp area. We're just going to winch it out nice and carefully.
All the Chinook's parts are stored in its body. It's a bit like laying out all the parts for a giant Airfix model, and Maz is the man in charge.
When they're breaking down in the UK, they just put it all on board, ship it over here, and then we unload it, and then systematically fit it, really.
The major jobs are to fit the 2 huge turrets onto the front and back. These house the gearboxes and drive shafts which transfer the power from the engines up to the rotor heads that turn the 6 blades. The engineers have got to get it right because these are what steer and manoeuvre the bulky Chinook, giving it stability and its phenomenal lifting power.
Oh. Nice and slow, nice and slow.
Each blade is 25 feet long, so it takes the whole team just to lift one.
OK, furthest one away.
Outside, the temperatures drop to an icy -9 degrees.
Once you get going and you've got your clothing on, it's not too bad, but it's cold. Eugene, just keep an eye on that flange at the back, bud. 1, 2, 3, push.
Not too much. That'll do.
Not too fast.
Now everything's unloaded, they need to attach the blades. But there's a problem.
Unfortunately, we don't have a crane as of yet. The Army guys are using it down the other end of the airfield, and they have priority over us. So unfortunately, we have to wait, which is frustrating for us guys because we're trying to get this rebuilt and get it flying, really. So we just have to wait out for the Army.
Time for a cuppa.
Do you want anything else in this?
And the lads are quite particular about how they like their brew.
You're a Yorkshireman that puts milk in with his tea bag. How's that work?
I'm going to get slagged off, but I do mix... I put the milk in with the tea bag, Because as
Don't say your milk is a constant.
The milk is a constant. Your tea bag, you brew it to how you like it. Your milk is your constant.
That's total rubbish, isn't it?
No one's ever complained. It's a cup of tea, not a cup of milky tea.
Leaving them to argue, Maz ducks out to sort out domestic chores.
It's quiet because we seem to be the only section at work, really. There's a few local contractors that work at night, but for the most, it seems to be we're the only ones on the flight line working.
After 2 months in Kandahar, he's got just 2 days left before he goes home.
I miss my family. My brother's just had a little baby, Oliver, so I miss him. Miss my girlfriend. It's been, since we've been together, this is the first time I've been away from her, but I'm looking forward to getting home and seeing them all. It's been hard. Unfortunately, there's nothing to break it up. It's 12 on, 12 off for 2 months. So it's Groundhog Day.
Kandahar airfield is the gateway to the war in Afghanistan. And every month, at least 12 British journalists pass through on their way to the combat zone. Tristan Nichols writes for the Plymouth Herald.
Hold up, one looking over his shoulder.
He's been embedded with 4-2 Commando in Helmand for the last 2 weeks.
It is difficult doing your job over here. There's no 9 to 5 anyway in journalism, but there's definitely no 9 to 5 over here. It's been all about living, breathing, working with the Marines, going out on operations and actually seeing firsthand how they do it, which is quite staggering, to be quite honest.
During his time on the front line, Tristan kept a video blog.
I've joined them walking in their footsteps, just in case of any IED threat or anything like that. It's been quite a day, quite a day. I think I've been accepted by them. Certainly when the banter starts, you know that kind of you're on the right road, and you've just got to keep up with it. I think it's largely how they keep themselves going, is just by laughing and joking all the time.
Tristan's hiding. The enemy are coming and he's hidden under some duvets in a back room because he's a little bit scared.
It's pretty full on. It just makes you realise this isn't a training exercise. This is very real. Very real. The insurgents actually targeted us while we were in a compound. There were bullets flying over our heads with AK-47s, and they also threw an anti-tank missile at us. I mean, it's fascinating watching it unfold. You know, very well planned. Everyone came back uninjured. You're constantly on the go, and I think by the time I get back to the UK, I'll be ready to fall over, I think.
Back in the Kandahar press office, Tristan prepares to go home.
It's been an awesome trip. I've been here for 2.5 weeks, but I think it's going to take at least 2.5 weeks for me to get back to normal, really. Beginning to kind of question what normal is. I think a car horn is going to freak me out initially.
In the middle of the camp is the boardwalk. It's where the soldiers come to relax after they've been on the front line. One of the top attractions was Burger King. They were knocking out up to 1,000 burgers a day. But 4 months ago, a kitchen fire put it out of action.
They're closed. And that's so disappointing. It's the highlight of Kandahar.
Manager Jaffrey's had a nightmare trying to get it up and running again after countless setbacks.
Having the technical problems like this in the middle, it reminds me that we are in the middle of the desert, and we're operating in normal circumstances in a civilized city.
Finally, he's got everything working. But before it can open for business, medical advisor Kev Mackey needs to check on cleanliness. So he's brought in the US military health inspector.
If the troops pick up a nasty bug, and that's multiplied by 500 people going there for their evening meal, that's 500 soldiers down, so it's really important that we don't poison our own troops just by poor hygiene standards and poor food handling.
It's a nail-biting time for Jaffrey.
It's a little bit nervous feeling because always the new equipment and everything, you never know what can work, what will not.
They've gone through the burger van with a fine-tooth comb.
Walk-in bulk freezers, these are region freezers, are all standard below.
Yeah.
And Kev's a real stickler for detail.
Let's talk to...
It's make or break time.
All overall is outstanding. The facility meets proper food safety requirements as per the instruction. Food safety establishment is prepared to open. So you go ahead and
Appreciate it, sir. Thank you very much.
Yes, sir.
Thank you. It's nice.
Sir, it's all set.
Hey, nice one, nice one. Okay.
Relief and very excited because we've been waiting for this for a very long time.
It's hamburger heaven for the soldiers back from the fighting.
It's a luxury thing, to be honest. Coming back to this is come on.
And Kev's confident they won't be poisoned.
I wouldn't have opened it, I wouldn't have sanctioned it being opened if I was unhappy with the standard inside.
But just to make sure the food is really, really safe.
Well, I guess the proof of the pudding's in the eating, isn't it? Do you know what? I could be in the high street back home.
Coming up, a Royal Marine busts some moves. And the mortar lads light up the battlefield. Kandahar Airfield, a military base with over 10,000 troops, all living slap bang in the middle of a baking hot desert. The camp uses 1 million gallons of water a day, and it comes from an underground spring beneath this water plant. Kev Mackey is the medical advisor on the base, and he has to make sure the water's safe to drink.
Morning, Sonny.
Oh, hey, how you doing?
Yeah, how you doing?
Hey, good, Kevin, how are you?
Okay.
American contractor Sonny is the head man at the water plant.
This is coming straight up from the well, isn't it?
Yeah, this is sample point 1. This is where it's feeding into the Roku system.
How far down is this one?
Our wells run anywhere from about 200 to anywhere up to, I think, 700-800 feet.
Oh, right, OK. We'll run a bit off. This is just like taking a midstream off an elephant, I think.
Very small elephant.
Yeah. Speak for yourself.
The well water is purified by forcing it through a membrane which catches any of those nasty bits. It's called reverse osmosis.
This is the finished product that goes into all of the taps. You could drink this out of here now. Yeah, it's fine. We'll get that one labelled up and sent off for sampling. It's very clear. It's good quality water, that.
In case the plant goes down, there's 1 million gallons of water stored in these giant rubber bladders. And if one springs a leak, there's a simple solution.
Just sticks, wooden sticks, pushed into the bladder. And this is going back to the old marine days when they found that if you put wood into a hole in a boat, then that wood expands and then it just blocks up the holes.
Kev and Sonny also run the wastewater plant. It's the size of 9 Olympic swimming pools, and it stinks.
This is the famous poo pond. It was originally designed and put in by the Russians 20 years ago. Taliban's ran them for a little while, but we don't think they knew much about wastewater. Might have a few tanks in there, maybe some heads, Humvees, whatever they have, airplanes. We don't know what they put in here.
The population in Kandahar has trebled since the poo pond was built, and the system's struggling to cope.
500,000 gallons of raw sewage coming in here, 24 hours every day, 365 days a year.
And there's one day in particular that goes down in history.
Apparently there was a bet and there were some people who were drinking and they decided they would go for a swim across the poo pond. Yeah, there has been people that have been silly enough, I guess, to go swimming in a pond of kind of ridiculous, if you ask me.
Work's due to start on a state-of-the-art sewage plant, and the old poo pond is going to be dried out and filled in.
We're going to take care of this infamous pond, and it was my goal from the day I got over here. That's the reason I came over here, was this pond. So, darling, if you see me, now you know why I'm here.
The RAF regiment guards the airfield against being attacked. The Taliban regularly rocket the base and bury bombs and mines under the road. In the last year, 2 RAF regiment soldiers have been killed and 5 have been wounded when their vehicles went over explosive devices. There would have been many more casualties if it weren't for the lads in the mortar pits back at the base. Their job is to spot the Taliban from miles away with this bit of kit.
What we operate from here is the M-Star. It's basically a radar. We're scanning out to 12 kilometres, and what it basically does, it picks up men, wheeled or tracked vehicles in that area. And all we're simply doing is we're plotting them on traces, and it builds up an accurate picture of all movement in that area. For us, it's proving to be quite an invaluable piece of kit.
And if the regiment comes under attack, they can use the 81mm mortars. Corporal Hammond calls the shots.
Leon, X-ray 1-4!
Right, 2 rounds fire!
They can fire out high explosives that hit targets up to 3 miles away. The lads also set off illumination rounds to expose the enemy for the soldiers on patrol.
Once it actually pops, it's equivalent to 1 million candle-watt power. So 2 barrels or 3 barrels firing on it, we can light up a complete battlefield.
The lads live in harsh conditions.
This is their sleeping area. It's not very pretty, but that's where they sleep. And basically what we do, we stay here for 7 days, 24 hours a day, pretty much minging it out.
And they have to share their beds with some unwelcome guests.
It's infested with mice. So the lads have got a bit of pastime, and that's setting up as many mouse traps as they can possible. What they've done is set up a little graveyard. This is the graveyard for Mr. Jingles and his family. We've got 3 confirmed kills at the moment, and hopefully we're going to be getting a lot more. We've actually got a pet snake, which keeps appearing, but the snakes do seem to keep the mice at bay.
But the least welcome visitor is the camel spider, which can give you a nasty bite.
The biggest ones we've seen are like pretty much the size of your hand. You'll know when someone finds one because you just see them running a mile.
But guess who's coming to the rescue? It's Kev Mackey. He not only sorts out burgers, sewage, water and medical emergencies.
Hi guys.
But he's also in charge of pest control.
You must be Corporal Hammond?
Yeah, right, sir.
Known as Hammer, I guess?
Yes, sir.
Yeah, good to see you. Now then, I hear on the grapevine that you might be a little shy of the old creepy crawlies.
Yeah, petrified of them.
Yeah.
Kev's got a contract killer on the job.
And what we're looking for is we're looking for those areas that they might be hiding. Anytime that we see cracks like this, we're going to be looking in those areas because they're going to stay inside these where they're sheltered.
These planks aren't butted up to each other,
No,
are they? So
no.
There's quite a few gaps in there.
And this hitman's poison will kill off any pests.
I guess at this point we'll hand it back to you, Hammer.
Yeah, thanks a lot for that.
Sleep safe in your bed tonight or in your mortar pit tonight.
Force Commando have a base at Kandahar. They come here to relax for a few days after doing 5-week stretches in Helmand.
We've got a couple of the accommodation tents that the lads have been sort of staying in. Recently we've just had this HESCO wall been put up round about them just to protect the tents a bit more from any potential rocket attacks that come in. They're air conditioned as well and heating, so it's not too bad.
The lads are fully armed when they're out in the combat zone, and Ollie's in charge of the tools of the trade.
We've got our weapons here, we've got our rifles, we've got support weapons, we've got pistols as well, which every man also takes out with them. We've also got bayonets as well, which, you know, last resort. You don't really want to be affixing your bayonet when you're going into a compound, but you know, sometimes that has to happen. But we keep them in here, make sure they're clean.
Kandahar's home to the RAF and the Army, but it's the Navy Marines who think they're top dog.
Being over here at the moment with some Army ranks, and there's a lot of friendly banter between the two services. And obviously being in the Marines, we are far superior. And I think, you know, they tend to get a little bit embarrassed by the fact. But it's all good humour. And as I say, Army does stand for ain't ready for Marines yet. So, enough said.
Under the cover of darkness, Hardman Ollie has sneaked away to indulge his secret passion.
Tonight I'm going salsa dancing because I'm getting married in August next year, so I'm trying to learn some dance moves so my missus and I can do something a bit more interesting for the first dance than a regular slow sort of waltz, but we'll see what happens, you know. But it's a good wee place to come to in the evenings. Bit of downtime really from working all day. We've got some coffee shops and all sorts of things, so it's pretty good. I just slide in between you guys.
This salsa class is run by the Americans, twice a week.
It is a bit strange to have salsa lessons in the middle of the desert, but it's also strange to have a Pizza Hut and a Subway.
Ollie's not happy with his progress.
I've had about 6 lessons, but it looks as if I've had about 2 or 3.
But his dance partner isn't complaining.
Well, he certainly likes to shake his ass about, but he's trying, he's doing really well, he's picked up moves really, really quickly as well.
It's early morning at the airbase, and the Chinook engineers have finally got the crane they needed.
Are we ready to rock and roll?
Now they can get on with the job of putting the helicopter back together. Maz is the boss man. First job, getting the turrets on. This will take the power up to the blades.
It's just a slow process really, because if you rush it, you'll just damage the airframe, and we don't really want that. Come on, tell him to get a jib on. We all know that the bigger picture is getting the Chinook serviceable so the guys in the field can get their ammunition, they can get food, their water. Everybody here knows that. Coming up!
Next, the rotor heads that hold the blades.
Coming in!
It's all down to teamwork.
The main thing really is good communication between us and the guys on the airframe.
Coming down! Right now we're just about to fit the blades onto the aircraft. It's like the final chapter. The guys are just up there now getting it prepared, ready to go.
The 25-foot blades are put into position with a high-tech bit of kit.
It's it!
A good end to Maz's last day in Kandahar.
Yeah, sure. That's my first. Gaz has had 2.
Have you heard it? I were up there actually grafting. So.
And what, and I was down here?
Yeah.
Work hard, you play hard, really, don't you? It's customary to buy donuts when you leave, but I'm not buying any. Sorry.
When are you going?
Tomorrow.
Are you going into shift?
Yeah, but there's 15 of us leaving.
So that means there's going to be 15 boxes of donuts.
Frank's got 2 in.
So that's going to be 16 boxes of donuts. That's like 200 donuts.
They'll go.
I bet they will.
It's now over to the pilots to put the engineers' work to the test. Maz makes a few last-minute safety checks before it's clear to fly.
All the components work as they should have done, no leaks, so we're all good to go. Brilliant. There she goes now. It looks good. It does look good.
And another Chinook's ready for the combat zone. The British troops are getting ready for a very important day in the calendar. The 7th Remembrance Sunday since NATO arrived in Afghanistan. The Royal Marines, the RAF and the Army assemble at the camp's boardwalk.
We know we're very close here to parts of this country where people are putting their lives at risk every single day. So we remember them and think of them as we'll be here in this service.
Base Commander Andy Fryer is leading the ceremony.
It is very important. It's important back in the UK, but I think it's even more so here, and to reflect on what's gone before in a place like this, in the midst of a live operation. I think it's hugely important.
They shall grow not old, as we that are left grow old. Age shall not weary them, all the years condemn. The going down of the sun, and in the morning, we will remember them.
NATO troops have been in Afghanistan since 2001, but a third of those who have lost their lives have been killed in the past year.
Second Lieutenant Neville Anthony Lockwood. Corporal Damien Mulverhill. Lieutenant John David Thornton. Marine Dale Edward Gostick. Marine Jamie Robert John Hutton. 4-2 Commando. Marine Benjamin John Busnell, Paul, 18 UK Special Forces Signal Regiment. Marine Jamie Robert John Hutton. Marine David John Marsh. Marine Joshua Howell.
It is emotional. It's not just a bunch of names on some marble slab back home, you know, when you stood around a monument. These are guys that we've known and served with, so yeah, it does make it very real.
Coming up, the airbase gets a morale boost, and the fan club's out in force.
Happy with that.
A C-130 Hercules is flying into Kandahar Air Base with some VIPs on board. The famous Sun Girls. And their fan clubs gathered over at the Marines' accommodation.
Waiting for page 3 lasses to come up on, because when you spend 6 months with nothing but guys, it's causes an impact in your life when you hear that page 3 girls are coming out to see you. So.
In Kandahar, pinning up your page 3 girl isn't always so easy.
I would, but I live in a tent, so it's kind of hard to get blue tack to stick there, especially with the heat sometimes.
And Marine Ollie has brought a friend along.
This is Dangles. We monkey I've had for about 5 years now. I took him through training and subsequently he's earned his green beret as well. Hopefully the girls will kind of take a wee shine to him. I'll get a couple of photographs with the girls giving him a kiss, or even hopefully maybe down a vest top, which would be quite nice, but we'll wait and see.
Special Army.
This isn't like any paper round you might get back home.
It's a special edition, there's no sport, I'm afraid.
It's nice because obviously they're doing like the same thing every day practically, and it's nice for them to be cheered up. See some girls with some makeup on. Yeah.
What's your name? Paul. Nice to meet you, Paul.
It's pretty good morale for the boys, to be honest, because we've been out here 6 months now, and we've pretty much had 0 to none female contact, so this is very good for morale, definitely.
Ollie spots his opportunity and gets in there with Dangles.
Yeah, man, if I could just pop that down your just those hands in this.
No, I don't feel fit.
Oh, fair enough then. Cheers. We just do.
Yeah.
What's your name? Paul. Nice to meet you, Paul.
It's pretty good morale for the boys, to be honest, because we've been out here 6 months now, and we've pretty much had 0 to none female contact, so this is very good for morale, definitely.
Ollie spots his opportunity and gets in there with Dangles.
Yeah, man, if I could just pop that down your just those hands in this.
No, I don't feel fit.
Oh, fair enough then. Cheers. We just do. Happy with that. I'll probably get a bit of a hard time off the guys later on for it, but it's worth it.
But the fun doesn't last for long.
They're gone, so the back's cracking on now, isn't it? So.
The day's not quite at an end for Kev Mackey, because he's got one last duty to perform. Organising the volleyball.
Somebody has to be in charge, don't they, I guess. So I'm the keeper of the balls for the moment, and at least I can then put the word round and say to people, you know, are you coming to volleyball? And we get a team together. It's my little bed space. This is my home. Comfy bed with quilt, which is a real bonus.
Of course, Kev has a rigorous hygiene test for his volleyball kit.
You know, give it a sniff and see if it's going to do another day in the standard military fashion. Right. Oh, good serving. Should have had that.
It's not quite California dreaming, but in a war zone, you grab your fun where you can.
Yeah, well played.
As a player, well, he's still learning, obviously, here, but no, he's out here every week, so probably fine by the end of the tour. He'll be a professional. He's quite good at clapping, I think.
Oh, yes, sweet. Yeah, good play. Been a bit busy for me, so just coming out here, you forget all about work and just have a, concentrate on the game for a few minutes. It's good fun.
Next time, the Harrier pilots are called into action, a futuristic unmanned warplane is revealed.
We must scare them because they can't see us, they can't hear us.
And the troops get their kit off for a good cause.
Oh my God!
From wobbly beds to greasy eggs and broken lamps, a bad hotel can ruin your holiday. So that's where Alex Polizzi comes in. The hotel inspector returns to show them the light. The new series starts Monday at 9. Next, though, it's NCIS.